At ease, it's your boy Soul Immortal. I made a video a few days ago and a young lady by the name of K. Jules made a very interesting comment, right? She says, I believe a woman that's a 95%er can become a 5%er. There's always room for growth in her to mature. I'm sure the 5%er wasn't always a 5%er. They evolved. My take on relationships being dead, and I can only speak from my perspective. And then I got a question yesterday from a brother in my DM asking a question on the same topic. And the brother asked, does a 5% woman come from a family of 5%ers, or does she grow to become? And if that's the case, can you be in a relationship and your girl grow to become a 5%? Or is it you are what you are? So what do you think, brothers? Can she transform into a virtuous woman? Let's talk about it. So fellas, we're all aware of a woman hitting the wall, right? You know, we know that some women like to party through their teenage years, you know, continue wilding out through 20s. And then when they get around 30 years old, they want to find the good guy and settle down, right? We're all aware of that. You know, but just for a split second, let's remove the thought of should a man get with this woman, and let's specifically focus on if a woman is capable of transforming into a virtuous woman. Now, we always talk about this particular woman that chose to kind of wild out when she was at a younger age, or live life a little bit more free, right? But for some of us brothers, we're being a little bit hypocritical. And the reason I say that is because a lot of us brothers were the guys that these women were running to. You know what I'm saying? I can easily say that at a much younger age that I had some small, quick flings with women, you know, that I look at now, you know, they've matured, they're married, they have kids, and they have healthy relationships. You know what I'm saying? So I can't judge them off of what they did back then, you know? And if we're honest with ourselves, man, you know, if you're over the age of 30, right? If you met your girlfriend or your wife after the age of 30, odds are that at some point in time, you know, she was someone's fling. Odds are that maybe one night when she was, you know, 21, she had a one-night stand. Odds are she wasn't always the good girl that she is now. And you know what? Most guys are actually okay with this. Because, you know, in the perfect world, we would all love to say, you know, all right, us as men grew up, you know, we hit 20 years old, you know, we took time out to sow our wild oats, to get the bag, and we turned 30 years old, 35 years old, you know, we found this dime piece that's untouched, and she's the perfect woman. You know, in theory, that would be the perfect scenario. But we all know that's not happening, right? The thing is, I don't think men have as much as a problem with the woman's past as much as they have a problem with the woman not understanding how she's made. And what I'm trying to say is, when a woman has an intimate partner after intimate partner after intimate partner, it hinders the bond that her and the guy that she's going to be with forever are going to have, right? Because when it says that two shall come together as one, you know, when a woman has, you know, a sexual past, it's really her coming together with one, but bringing, you know, a league of men with her if she's been that active, right? And that, again, that hinders the bond, that hinders the power of the relationship, you know what I'm saying? But I've made a video on that already. So the question is, knowing all that, can she still transform into a virtuous woman? So I was talking to a sister several weeks ago, right? And when she called, we initially started talking about manifestation and that whole thing, right? And toward the end of our conversation, we started talking about virtuous women, you know? And she was very transparent. You know, she told me about her upbringing through foster homes and all this stuff. You know, she told me that, you know, when she was younger, that she messed around with, you know, a number of guys. She told me that she had a one-night stand, and she had even told me that once she had slept with a married man, right? And then she told me when she was 25 or 26, she became friends with a woman and saw how this woman's relationship, was working out. And she told me she had never seen anything like that, right? And I think between 26 and 28, I believe she told me, she said she just went abstinent, right? No sex, no relationships, no nothing. And she said the most important thing about that, or the reason behind it rather, was because of guilt, for one, right? And two, she said she wanted something better, right? So she asked me the question. She said, do you ever think that it's possible for a man to love me, like my friend's husband loved her? And I'll be honest, I couldn't say yes, and I couldn't say no. The only thing that I could think of to tell her was a story that I'd heard a long time ago, right? And it was a story about the prophet, right? And I believe it was in Luke 35 or 36, right? So the messenger was going into a house of one of the Pharisees. And when he went in the house, there was a woman that came up to him and started washing his feet with her hair and all kinds of stuff. And the Pharisee, looked at the prophet and said, like surely if you're a man of understanding, you know not to entertain this woman because, she's one of the sinners of the city, right? So after the messenger gave the Pharisee, a parable, right? He said, I came into this household and nobody offered me water for my feet. Nobody offered me this, not even you. But this woman that you say is a sinner came and took care of everything. And then he said, you know what? This woman is forgiven. This woman is healed or whatever, So having heard that, guys, the question is still, can she transform, or can she be transformed into a virtuous woman? When we think of the virtuous woman, right, we instantly think of a woman that's dang near perfect. She's innocent. She's not in clubs. She doesn't have a laundry list of men and all these other heavenly attributes. You know what I'm saying? But I can tell you, brothers, I've dated this woman, and I can easily say that it was one of the worst dating experiences of my life. Because even though she was innocent and soft and all this other stuff, she added absolutely zero value to my life, right? And that caused me to step back. That caused me to reevaluate the virtuous woman. And I had to revisit, the Proverbs, 31st Proverbs. See, if you look at Proverbs 31 closely, you'll see that a woman being virtuous, it really has very little to do with her character or her past, but it has everything to do with her actions. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at 12. Verse 12 says, she will do him good and not evil. 13 says, she seeketh wool. 14 says, she bringeth food from afar. 20 says, she stretches out her hand to the poor. 24 says, she maketh fine linen. Again, men, when it comes to a woman being virtuous, it has very little to do with who she is and more about what she does. This makes me think of Gucci Man and his wife, Kiora, I believe her name is, right? Now, I'm not saying that she's a 5%er, 95%er virtuous woman, any of that, because I don't know her, right? But I will say that when that brother proposed to her, I was just like, man, what is he doing? Because up until that point, all I knew about her is, she was a video vixen. I knew that she had, dated or messed around with a few rappers, right? And then I know there were some stories about her abandoning her kids in Jamaica and all that stuff. So naturally, I'd formed an opinion about her, right? But then when I saw that brother on, during that Charlemagne interview a few weeks ago, and I heard him talking about her, I had to admit, man, I had it all wrong, because the brother was talking about how much value she added to his life. He talked about how she woke up and did all this stuff for him in the morning. He talked about how she was one of the reasons why he was so healthy. She was one of the reasons why his bank account is steadily growing. And again, I had to say, you know what? I had it all wrong. Because by her doing this, and I mean by her adding value to this man's life, making him better, by doing certain actions, you know what I'm saying? By her doing this, you know, by definition, she was a virtuous woman. You know, it goes back to the message that the prophet was trying to relay to the Pharisee, right? You know, as men on this planet, we have several women to choose from, right? But out of all these women, how many are willing to look out for your best interest? And I mean, how many of these women are willing to look out for your health, your wealth? You know what I'm saying? How many of these women are willing to hold down the household while you're out of pocket? How many women, like in verse 11, will do whatever it takes to gain the trust of their man? Now, I'll say this. Brothers, you cannot turn her into a housewife. Because when you do that, you're still talking about dealing with a woman that's in her old state of mind, right? But when you take a woman that has not lived the most perfect life, right? When you take a woman that is trying to evolve and step into, you know, her new self, just like several of us brothers do, you know, can that woman transform into a virtuous woman? I say yes, brothers. Because you got to remember, the virtuous woman is not always the woman with the most, you know, the cleanest record, right? The virtuous woman is the woman that's about that action. It's your boy Soul Immortal, and I'm out. Eddie!